Draft day, man.
We're here. We made it.
Dude, finally.
I'm fired up. I'm so fired up for it.
Dude, me
For those
too.
of y'all watching today, we are less than 12 hours out from the draft. It's 8:30 right now, and we're getting in on Dylan's final mock. Mine should be posted at some point today, and Dylan's will be a little bit later, probably a little bit before the draft. But it sounds like this dude's been grinding it out here for a minute this morning, so I'm
Well,
fired up.
Seamus, what's funny is I
Yeah,
did my mock perfect how I wanted it, how it's going to go tonight. And I did it on Mockout because I couldn't get PFF on my phone. And
yeah.
freaking Mockout just screwed me off and right at the end of the draft. So it didn't save. So I had to restart it. But, dude, honestly, I think I got it even better than how I had it on Mockout. And I'm ready to deliver.
Damn. All right. Let's see it.
Well, obviously, we have Cam Ward at 1. I think it would shock the world if this didn't happen. I don't think we need to go any deeper on that. And
I like it.
Yeah. I just want to start by saying also that I've looked at multiple mocks. Seamus did a great job in his final mock. I copied some things from him as well because I believe in them. And that's Travis Hunter at 2 to the Browns. So far, this isn't anything crazy. Sorry, I've got it written down right here to my right. Here at 3, I know, Seamus, you talked about this in your mock. Thibodeau's on the trade block. This makes it easy as well to go Abdul Carter. And I think this is where the picks start changing for me. I'm going Will Campbell to the Pats.
Okay.
You like that?
Yeah, I could definitely see it happening too. I was talking to Los last night. That's our buddy who is a Pats fan, and he was kind of thinking that it was going to be Will too. And I'm starting to be of the mindset that I think the draft is really going to start at 4 now that we're this close to it. I think the top 3 is going to go like that. There's been rumors of trades up and down, but I think it's going to be like this, and then 4 is where it starts. I really think.
Yeah, so I think you're 100% right. It definitely starts here at 4. The first 3 are starting to become a gimme. Hopefully everyone's mocks aren't wrong at that point. But I get a little weird here.
Yeah.
I'm doing a trade with the Dallas Cowboys. I think Jerry Jones is sick of the shit, man. He's ready to make a move. He's ready to make a splash, and I think Ashton Genty is the splash of the draft. What do you think, man? I mean,
dude, if this happened, first of all, I would love to hear Jerry's interview directly after. I think he'd just come on and be like, "I fucking told y'all," and flip off the camera or some shit like that.
Yeah, dude.
But if this happened, I would be fired up. If we saw trade across the bottom and it was the Cowboys logo, I'd be fired up. That'd get a reaction out of me, but I would love if Jerry did this because there just needs to be a spark of life put into that franchise. It feels like this is the least amount of hope and the most pissed off the fan base has ever been in our lifetimes. I think Jerry's just trying to give the fans another reason to love them again and the Cowboys because everyone's just kind of shitting on them right now, and you can kind of definitely hear the noise back home. I feel like 100%.
Reignite the fire in Cowboy fans, and yeah, Jerry's going to talk shit, and so the delusional Cowboy fan will be back after this draft pick. But at 6, I also have kind of a shocker. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah who put this out, and I really liked it. It's Kelvin Banks. I know we have him going to the Texans, but
Yeah,
with these tackles, it's who you like. And I know there's like guys like Josh Simmons who had injuries, and there's guys better in the running game than others, and pass pro and all that. But Steve Sarkisian coached under Pete Carroll, and I think that he sold him very well. And Daniel Jeremiah mentions this, and Colton Miller's deal is coming up as well. So I think you need that security at left tackle, and many people believe, including me, that Kelvin Banks is pro ready, probably the most pro ready left tackle in the draft right now. And so I think the Raiders will have him and hopefully Colton Miller and whoever they bring in at QB to be the successor of Gino or whoever else. They'll have two tackles protecting them. So
Yeah, and I think one thing that's underrated that a lot of people might not think about or really even know about is that positions like quarterback, offensive tackle, and edge rusher can definitely get drafted higher based on, and it could really be any position. It just takes one team to fall in love with someone, but especially at those kind of premier positions, wide receiver too. As soon as they start going, teams will start reaching for them, and if they like a guy, they don't care. And this probably wouldn't even be considered a reach for Kelvin Banks. He seems like he's going to be a solid player, but as soon as one of the guys go off the board, like Will Campbell, I think there could definitely be a run of O tackles that maybe get drafted higher than people expected.
100%. But moving on to the Jets, Seamus, I think the 7 spot is really a trade spot, and the Jets could go a lot of ways. I saw Armand Menbu here would be the final piece in the O line, moving Olu Fashanu to left tackle. If Justin Fields doesn't work out, then you get to get another quarterback in a perfect O line, Garrett Wilson. But you also could get a quarterback with the best friend in Tyler Warren. I think this gives Justin Fields a better chance at succeeding in the Jets offense in general. He's the joker of the Jets if this happens. And
Yes.
yeah, I love this pick, and honestly that could go a bunch of ways, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a huge Tyler Warren guy, as you know, and I think there's 100% chance that he could go here. I feel like the very highest that he could probably go would be fifth to the Jags, and I said it in my mock, but I really don't think that he's going to fall below 10. Maybe 10 probably being the latest, in my opinion. So I think this is a perfect spot for Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and moving on to the Panthers, man, they kind of get a dream scenario. A lot of people have Jalen Walker falling farther than where we have him mocked in all of our mocks, I think. But I think this is a lock. You get Jalen Walker, who has on and off the ball versatility. And by that, I mean on the edge or at Sam or Mike or Will, whatever you think he can play. Um, the Panthers need another stud in linebacker. I don't really even know who they have. Like Josie Jewell.
Yeah, Frankie Louvu.
You need a new young guy in there, and I think Jalen Walker is the guy to do that.
100%. Yeah, you know I'm a big Jalen Walker guy, and I have him going fourth to the Pats, which that might be a little bit of what maybe I would do / me projecting a little bit, but I think that the Panthers would scoop him up in a heartbeat right here if he was available.
Exactly. On to the Saints at 9. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah or Peter Schrager. They mocked Michael Williams to the Saints. That seems like kind of a reach. Same with the Kelvin Banks potentially, but if an analyst of that stature is putting that on their mock, then they know something. And
Yeah,
I'm trying to be 100% correct here, so I'm going Michael Williams to the Saints.
yeah, I could definitely see that. He's a big edge rusher, great athlete, and like I kind of mentioned earlier, edge rushers they go high. And once some of these guys start going off the board, it's really kind of whatever pick of the litter, whatever pick that you like. especially in this draft. Once you get kind of past, maybe to 8 and below, and even before that, it's kind of there's only a couple what a lot of people would consider surefire or
Locks.
as close to a guarantee as you would expect.
Yeah,
So I think there could be a lot of shakeups that we didn't see coming very soon in the draft tonight.
100%. And honestly, it gets even weirder at 10. I know we were the biggest Walter Nolan slippers going to the second round, but I'm taking him over Mason Graham. I think when Mason Graham just not really participating in anything this offseason, I know I sound like probably a Garen for saying that, but you got Walter Nolan who's just, dude, I just keep watching his tape and seeing the explosiveness taking on the double teams. I know I mentioned that in your mock, but
Yeah.
I think the Bears, they could go a lot of ways. I think they just stick at Walter Nolan and make it happen right there at 10.
Yeah, I saw something yesterday that said that he's a huge draft riser and that he'll probably go in that. Now it seems like he's going to go in the top half of the draft, if not earlier, like right here. So I like that. I'm looking real quick at Peter Schrager's draft, and yeah, he also picked Micah Williams. I think that was the one to the Saints, just to
There you
clear
go.
that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I like Walter Nolan. It seems like he definitely has the most upside out of maybe even most all the D linemen and just defensive players in general. So I think that there's a real solid reason why he got moved up so many, I guess, draft boards so late. And maybe it wasn't even that. Maybe he was already this high on a lot of them, but I think he's going to go high.
Yeah, and I think the Bears could also go Armand Menbu, but I don't know, man. I think, do you know anyone on their defensive line?
The Bears, I know they got Montez Sweat, and I think they drafted a guy last year in the second round or something like that. But off the top of my head, I don't.
We're big ball knowers, Seamus. If we can't think of off the dome who they have, and I know Montez Sweat is more of an edge guy,
Yeah,
they need something on the interior, and especially in practice when they start pounding the rock on the defense, they're going to need somebody like Walter Nolan taking on those double teams.
yeah,
Right here at the Niners, Seamus, at 11, I have another trade. This is the second of the four.
yeah.
And although I'm not in love with this trade, I think there's a real possibility that it happens. The Denver Broncos trade up with the Niners.
Okay.
And to take the blasphemy a step further, we're going Colson Loveland after getting Evan Ingram. I think Sean Payton is constantly trying to find a way to evolve the game and give defensive coordinators a damn aneurysm in the box. And when you pull on two tight ends on the field that can both be mismatches and beat linebackers on routes, that dude, can you imagine Colson Loveland on one side, Evan Ingram on the other? You got Cortland Sutton, borderline tight end at his size. Like, what personnel do you go with on defense?
Yeah, you have to have a unique personnel and some weapons in the secondary to cover that right there.
And Seamus, I know you picked Ted McMillan in your draft to the Jags, right?
Yeah.
Well, they get him here at 12. I know we're not doing the details of the trades, but no matter what, the Jags just bagged a couple extra picks and maybe a player. I don't know. The Dallas Cowboys probably traded their left leg for for that draft pick. So, but the Jags get Ted McMillan. I know that was one of the only players they brought on a visit as well. And like you said in your mock, they need the next Mike Evans for Liam Cohen's offense. I think Ted McMillan offers that, at least attribute wise.
Yeah, I think this would be an ideal, perfect scenario for the Jags if this did happen, because it definitely is starting to feel like I said it in the other mock, but that they're going to pick an offensive guy because Schefter came out and basically said that they're not going to pick Mason Graham, which has kind of just been the chalked up pick to them. And so this would be ideal for the Jags right here, 100%.
Yeah, Seamus, and to the Dolphins at 13, I have them getting Armand Membu. I know I preach the quick throw game. Tua is the most protected quarterback as far as roughing the passers and getting touched since all of the head trauma stuff and injuries. Um, I think Armand Membu is more of a run guy, and I know the Dolphins are starting to pound the rock a little bit. I know Devin Achan is he's going to be a big fantasy guy this next year, and I think Armand Membu really helps that out.
Yeah. And Mike McDaniel still comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. So he still, I think, would want to pound the rock and stuff. So I think this would be a perfect kind of seamless fit for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and on to the Colts, Seamus at 14. I know it doesn't say that the PFF doesn't think they need a D lineman, but you also just don't let Mason Graham slip any further. I think um, him with Latu could be the beginning of the front.
Yeah, I think the Colts would be head over heels if this is how it went right here because there's a lot of people that really like Mason Graham and think that he might be a maybe even top 5 talent. That's the reason the Jags have been almost chalked up to get him so much. But it seems like he's starting to slip a little bit. And I think any team that gets him down the board is probably going to be happy with who they get because he's a solid prospect, 100%.
Yeah, and to the Falcons here at 15, Seamus, I have them getting who me, you, and everyone I talk to is very high on is Mike Green. They need a guy on the edge, and this dude's motor and just ability to get to the quarterback and wreak havoc is what you want on a team. I like him more than Michael Williams. I think his
Yeah.
motor is better than Jalen Walker. Um, dude, I don't know. I love Mike Green, man. Honestly,
Yeah. It definitely seems like a dude that might go below those guys, but we wouldn't be surprised if we look up in 3 years from now and he's a Pro Bowler and maybe the best defensive player out of this draft. You know what I mean? It seems like he has kind of that potential as a middle first round pick to maybe even higher than this. But I think that if the Falcons, these last two picks, 100%, if it went like this for the Colts and the Falcons, I think I would give them an A plus in my opinion right there if that happened.
100%. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes way higher than this, maybe to 9 over Michael Williams, or even over Jalen Walker. I think what people love about Jalen Walker, Seamus, is I found this out. He's a coach's son, which
Right.
all teams love that. So he knows team, he knows leading, he knows all those things. So
Yeah.
he knows development. But to switch off the linebacker here at 16 to the Cardinals, I'm going to Mecca and Buka. They need a slot, Seamus. They have Marvin Harrison, who you had in your breakout video.
Yeah.
They have Michael Wilson. Those are two big body receivers. I know Marv has more versatility and can honestly play wherever probably, but you need a true slot, and Emeka can do that for the Cards. And I think they need to get in the slot more. They flex Trey McBride a lot, and they go one guy right and left and just pound the rock. But maybe they get a little more versatile on offense. And I know Kyler wants to run the ball more, so spread it out and let them get loose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this would be a great fit. And one thing I love about Ibuka real quick is that he's been at Ohio State for, I want to say, all 4 years. And he was there with, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, JSN, Marvin Harrison, pairing him up right here with the Cards with Marvin Harrison.
Reunite.
But yeah, yeah. But
Exactly.
apparently he's just a locker room leader and everything. And he's a guy that kind of carried the torch, if you will. whenever those other guys went to the draft, and you saw the way Jeremiah Smith, he was already going to be insane. But I would have to guess that Ibuka was in there being the leader of the receiver room and all that. And so I feel like he just comes in with like a ton of experience, and he's just already a dog as it is, and he seems like just a leader and a good dude. So I think wherever he goes, he'd probably just fit in right away and start making an instant impact.
Exactly. No problems in run blocking. Just team guy.
Yeah.
Here and I love Jihad Campbell there too, but I have him going here to the Bengals. They need the Joe Burrow leader on defense, and Jihad Campbell is that guy. Do you know who their Mike is?
No, it's like Jermaine Pratt or something. He's been there for since Moby Dick was a fucking minnow.
Exactly, dude. They need new faces on the defense. They need everything on defense. Honestly, Trey Hendrickson might be leaving, so
Yeah, 100%. His versatility would be huge.
yeah. And at 18, 19, these are trade spots for me. But dude, Seattle, they have 2 second rounders and they're not late, so I don't think the Seahawks just keep cashing in on picks. But I have them getting Gray Zabel at 18. They need everything but Charles Cross on O line. And Gray Zabel, we've said it 100 times, and he has the versatility to play anywhere. He was elite at North Dakota State. He could go higher. He could go later. He's damn near Shador on where the hell he's gonna go. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, the Seahawks O line is pretty bad, like you mentioned, and I would be interested to see them do this because a lot of people are kind of talking about him as a guy that can move to the interior too, have a lot of flexibility, and we know that John Schneider, their GM, is a guy that just does not value that interior O line kind of pick in the first round. So I think that if they did do this, they'd probably want him to be an O tackle, and then maybe he will eventually move inside, but maybe he would surprise us and change it up and have this guy come in. And obviously, the GM isn't, you know, it's the head coach and the offensive coaches that are going to put him wherever he is on the offensive line. But he could definitely shock us and beef it up on the interior 100%.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where he actually ends up playing, but I doubt he plays one spot on the line his whole career.
Nah, yeah, it seems like one of those guys that's going to move around a little bit.
Yeah, dude, and to the Bucks, if this happens, I'll be on the Bucks real team franchise this offseason. But I have Jade Barron going to the
Yeah,
Bucks. I wanted to find a way to get him on the Niners because Charvarius Ward is on the Colts now, and I wanted to make it make sense. But dude, they need him. They can't not get him, in my opinion.
yeah,
The Steelers potentially trading up just to lock in uh, who they're going to get, which I'll disclose here in a second.
yeah.
But and that would have got Jade Barron to the Niners, so that's also a possibility. But dude, I can just see the Bucks uni on him, Seamus.
Yeah, no, me too. You know something funny that I didn't mention in my mock is I made a little switch mid mock, and I had Jade going to the Bucks, and I switched him and Jihad Campbell because I had Jihad initially going to the Cardinals and Jade to the Bucks, but I switched them up. So this is my original pick right here, and I'm not even lying, but and I'm not even lying, but when you said that right there, that was my mindset. Whenever I was just thinking about it, I'm like,
You just see it
I
on him.
could see a Baron jersey
Yeah,
on the
just
Bucks 100%.
absolute stud.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're new, if this is your first time watching, me and Dylan are very high on Jade Barron. So wherever he goes, I think would be justified because I think he could be the best DB in the draft.
Yeah, I think he is next to even Worry.
Yeah,
Um, at 20, I have the Niners going Tyler Booker. through through the trade with Denver, of course. Yeah, the Niners need a guard. They need a tackle. They need everything on the O line, especially if Trent Williams retires, which I think he will have done that by now. But dude, they're a big wide zone pound the rock team, and Tyler Booker is a pound the rock guy. So
Yeah.
I love Tyler Booker to the Niners.
Yeah, that's a good fit. Like you mentioned, their O line is super weak. We've mentioned it a couple times throughout our videos, but the Niners are just super thin right now compared to years past. And so, first of all, I think trading down is a possibility just so they could get more draft assets and kind of get more swings at it to fill more positions. Because, like I said, they're going to need to hit on a couple positions to, you know, make sure this is what many would consider a really good draft and kind of keep them afloat and relevant in the NFC picture.
Yeah, and I know I'm spoiling our breakout vids if you guys haven't watched them, but Malik Mustafa was one of my breakouts for the Niners. I know Malachi Starks is sitting here on the board, but I think they have other needs. And go watch that vid if you haven't. It's both our breakout vids are pretty good.
Yeah.
For the Steelers, I have them getting their next franchise quarterback, whether they get A Rod or not. Jackson Dart. I'm starting to love this pick, man. I think he gives me like obviously it's a little more elusive than Big Ben, but I'm getting those like Pittsburgh vibes out of him. I know I also want to see him on the Giants. The Giants could trade Thibodeau and get right up here in the first round again and get Jackson Dart or Shador. But I think Jackson Dart to the Steelers has become one of my favorite picks.
Yeah, this is something I feel like we've been having mocked. Do we? I think we might have had it in our first ones, but um, I think I could see it too, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Don't be shocked if Jackson Dart does go over Shador like Dylan has in this mock right here, because like I said before, it really takes one team to have an opinion that needs a position at any position, but especially quarterback. It's going to be a bigger deal. As I said before, you can't go into OTAs and the rest of the offseason with Mason Rudolph and just be hoping that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign, because we still don't know at this point. So I really like the J Dart pick, and I 100% like them to take a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, I also want to put the possibility out there that maybe them and A Rod already know they're going to make a deal and they really don't want to go QB in the first round and they're just throwing up the biggest smoke screen ever just to
Yeah,
see what kind of trades can happen.
yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
also
If that
thought
shit
about
happens, just completely fucking forget everything I just said right there.
that. Yeah. Chavis on to 22. I think Ladd is a great dude, but this dude right here is a freaking stud, man. Matthew Golden with Herb. They need a receiver, man. I don't know why they act like they can just run the ball the whole game and not. I'm watching. I've never seen so many drops in my life. Every time I watch a Chargers game, I'm like, dude, I know a handful of guys that can go out there and just catch the ball. We should just catch the ball.
Yeah,
You know, I'm
yeah.
ready. I'm a Broncos fan, bro, and I'm getting tired of watching the Chargers drop the ball.
Yeah, and I would love it, and I kind of hope that if it felt like this, that Jim Harbaugh would do this, because as we know, he's a pound the rock guy. Don't really pick receivers and stuff in the first round, but Matthew Golden is a weapon, and if you have a dude like Justin Herbert who's slinging the pill around at an elite level, in my opinion, dude,
You're good, man. Come on.
come on, dog. Dude, you got to go get him another guy. And Ladd's a great receiver. Dylan just mentioned it, but he's a slot guy. And, Golden gives you flexibility, first of all, but he also gives you an outside receiver that is a route runner and has blazing speed. So I would love to see the Chargers do this, and Jim Harbaugh kind of switch up what we kind of expect from him.
Yeah, and here at 23 with the Packers, Seamus, I have my next trade. I know Will Johnson is sitting there, and the Packers want to move on from Jair Alexander. but the Eagles always seem to get their way. They always get their way, man. Um, I don't know what the details of the trade would be, but it is a first round swap for sure. And the Eagles straight up, and they get Malachi Starks.
Yeah, I like that. This is something that we've had in all of our mocks. I guess you could say this is our third, so the other previous two. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens right here. As we know, as Dylan mentioned, the Eagles get their way. Howie Roseman's a wizard. So, and he likes those Georgia dudes. So if he sees Malachi Starks fall, which I think there's a good chance that he does down to here, don't be surprised if the Eagles make a move up for a guy like Starks and just because if you look at them, they just won the Super Bowl and they really don't have that many holes at all. So they could really just go with best player available and move up for a guy like Malachi Starks, who I think, especially if he goes to the Eagles, but really just in general, I think he's going to be a dog in the league for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for us to anticipate where exactly the Eagles will trade, but I think they will trade, and I think they also will trade up for Malachi Starks. Um, Will Johnson's still sitting here. I know Stephon Gilmore is not a Viking anymore, correct?
Yeah.
But I have them getting Shamar Stewart. I think if I'm wrong in this draft, it's definitely going to be right here. Um, Will Johnson, dude, apparently he's slow. I saw a lot of zone. I saw him get absolutely cooked against Fresno State. Marvin Harrison. I mean, there's so many times where he got cooked, and I don't even know that he was in man. He's getting cooked in his zone. I think if you're getting cooked in your zone, that's concerning. But he's not a bad corner. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
He's young. PFF has him at 14, but I think the Vikings just go Shamar Stewart, and I think they've got a bunch of DBs that they believe in. They let Bynum go. They let Gilmore go. They have to believe in somebody underneath those guys, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I like this right here because as we've kind of mentioned in a couple other videos, Shamar's just an athletic freak that didn't have the production um, on the field in college in terms of sacks. But, if you get him in a defense where there's a great defensive coordinator led by Brian Flores and, they performed in such a better way last year than the year before, you're going to trust that they're going to develop defenders and especially D linemen because their pass rush was pretty good last year. And I think the Vikings have something now with Brian Flores that they just haven't had in at least the past couple of years that I can remember, that they have a defense that's feared and they have a dude that's an elite defensive coach that's developing these guys. So my guts tell me that they're going to go defense first of all, but I could see this or, we've had Eamon Wari too, but
yep.
it seems like they're probably going to, if I had to guess, go on the defensive side. And I saw a sneaky Omarion Hampton pick from someone's mock. I can't remember who it was, but that'd be interesting if they went running back round 1 too.
Speaking on running back round 1 for the Vikings, I watched a lot of videos on coaches and GMs talking at their annual team meeting, um, going over rule changes and things like that. I watched Kevin O'Connell talk about Jordan Mason going to the Vikings, and it sounds like they're ready for a two-headed monster with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. So I think I'm ruling out all first-round running back picks for the Vikings. I know that intel is so like I haven't heard anyone mention that. I'm just a nerd for the interviews, but I don't know, man. I think we'll get into it later. I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
Omari and Hampton's.
Yeah. No, I would definitely be shocked, but if I remember, it was someone that that usually is in the know, and I kind of forgot about Jordan Mason, but
Yeah,
it'd be pretty shocking now that I remember that they have him if they did do that. But at the end of the day, bro, we never know on draft day.
yeah,
There's going to be so many shakeups that we're gonna come and react to, but that are just gonna, I feel like, shock us and the rest of the football world like there is every year.
Yeah, you no 100%. I got Josh Simmons at 25 to the Texans. Um, it's not Kelvin Banks, and I know Josh Simmons. If I know Josh Simmons got hurt, but if he gets healthy, then that Laramie Tunsil trade looks a lot better after this pick. I know Josh Simmons was one of the better tackles coming out of high school as a 4-star. Um, I think despite this injury, he will overcome it and become one of the better tackles in this class. What do you think, Seamus?
Yeah, it definitely seems like a dude that. Yeah, it definitely seems like a dude that 100%. First of all, has a lot of potential to maybe even be surprisingly, maybe even the best tackle in this draft. You never really know. It obviously depends on where they go and whatnot, but I think that this could be a situation where we saw a guy like Christian Darrisaw go 23rd, I want to say 2 years ago, and he's one of the best tackles in the league already. And you just don't really see that usually at left tackle. A lot of those top guys are picked in the top, really 10, but like 15, like kind of half the draft.
Yeah.
And I think that this could be a dude that is picked down here and kind of turns into one of the better guys in the league. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think when people always do the 2025 redraft, we're going to see Josh Simmons up there probably
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with Will Johnson, a little bit different because he was so hyped up coming into this year. But whenever these guys are injured during the year, it's kind of hard to project where they could go, and it feels like their range of picks where they could go just opens up a ton. And so I think Josh Simmons is one of those guys where he probably doesn't go the 20s and below is probably where would see him, but like it definitely feels like his range is a little bit wider just because of that injury history, and you never really know if they're going to work out or not based on that, and you never know with any of the picks, but especially if they kind of have that injury history.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of the times if there's a reason that they're a first round pick, a lot of the times, as much as it's talked about, it really becomes kind of a non-factor down the line in their career.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the injuries. Like between him not participating in the injuries, you would think after being injured most of the year that you would participate in the things in the off season to like increase your draft stock or at least keep it because in this position he's fallen to 26 to the Rams when he could be way up in the boards, right?
Yeah,
Um, the Rams have been needing a corner, and onto the Ravens at 27. They could go a lot of ways, and I know they're probably wishing they got Josh Simmons or one of these other tier 2 tackles because Rosengarten could move anywhere they need him to play. But having said that, Rosengarten did play at an elite level at left tackle. I know we've all seen the clips of him and Myles Garrett and that jersey swap, but I have the Ravens going Luther Burden at 27. They keep trying to find the guy and help Lamar out wide, and they just can't figure it out. But I think Luther Burden gives you that ability out wide, but also think he has the versatility to freaking start doing wildcat jet motions with Derrick Henry pitching the ball off the. There's endless possibilities.
yeah,
Todd
it's a
Monken
good,
and
good way to take it.
Baltimore. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that, and it's on brand for what they've been doing the past, I guess, since they've had Lamar, and since Lamar's really been one of the best in the league. They went Zay Flowers in the first. They went Rashad Bateman. Zay is a dog, and I even like Rashad Bateman, but it just seems like even both of them, they just need someone else. Um, I really kind of think Bateman's been underwhelming. I think he might do a little bit better on a different team personally because it seems like he makes plays all the time. but they do need someone else as a weapon. You got Mark Andrews, who might not even be on the team, whenever the
Yeah.
season starts. So, and obviously he's a tight end, but he's a weapon for Lamar. So you definitely want to keep that weaponry, if you will, in good shape for Lamar. And everyone compares this dude to kind of like a Debo archetype where he can do anything. And like Dylan said, if you put that on the Ravens, that shit would be fun to watch with the versatility that's going on.
Yeah, it'd suck if you're trying to do a rebuild in Madden and you can't use Luther Burden because the Ravens are so far from a rebuild, right? Start talking about fantasy drafts and Madden again. Um, at 28, I have Donovan Ozaraku going to the Lions. They need another edge guy, and they need another guy with Aiden Hutchinson just coming off the edge, wreaking havoc.
Yeah, I like this pick. It's probably their, potential biggest need, I think. And, with these teams down here, really off the top, the Ravens, the Lions, the Eagles who traded up, you know, those teams, even, the Bills and the Chiefs, those teams are teams that don't have many holes at all. So, you're kind of drafting maybe best player available, or in their opinion, or, just kind of a luxury pick, if you will, something that you really think could just help your team out in any way possible. And I think getting another edge rusher for the Lions would be huge.
100%. And on to the Commanders, Seamus at 29. I have them getting Donovan Jackson. We've said it before. He's kind of like a Gray Zabel in being able to play guard and tackle. I know Gray Zabel probably is a little more versatile, but Donovan Jackson, dude, he can fill in. I know you mentioned Cosme's injury. That's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Him injured and just being able to fill. I know they got Laramie Tunsil, but dude, that line is starting to look complete for the commies.
yeah. And you want to protect your guy, the Jin and Jaden Daniels.
100%. Here to the Bills at 30. I think they go D tackle. I know Trey Amos was in their top 30 visits, and you hate that pick. But
Not a fan.
James Pierce could go here. Derek Harmon could go here. I have him going Kenneth Grant. I love his size and his finesse at his size. Um, Huge run stuffer. I know we saw a 87.5 run defense grade. That's incredible. The Bills would just leave him. They would just put him taking on the center and both guards by
Yeah,
himself.
big ass dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. This is one of my, if not my favorite first round kind of projected pick that's been projected to the Bills for a minute. I think that this dude would, like you said, fill such a big role. You got Ed Oliver next to him, who's an absolute dog, but definitely more of a kind of a, he stuffs the run, but he's not. He's a smaller D tackle, kind of a pass rusher, a little bit better, I think. And
yeah,
if you put, Kenneth Grant in there, he's stuffing it up, clogging the trenches and whatnot. And the Bills don't really run a lot of big formations defensively, so they need a lot of 4-2-5, which basically means 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. So you need D linemen and linebackers that are good against the run and kind of stuff in the run and whatnot, because there's a lot of light boxes and everything. So I think this would be ideal in my opinion.
100%. And I know James Pierce is also sitting there, and it's hard. But like you just said, you need those guys up front to hold the line, and James Pierce ain't holding the line against the run.
Nah.
So for my last trade, and I think this trade could happen in any of these last couple picks we just did. I have the Giants trading up, and it could be the Browns as well. But I have the Giants coming up and getting the 5th-year option with Shador Sanders. And I forget to force a trade every time. But
Yeah, the Shador domino falls.
Yep. Honestly, I really thought about letting him slip all the way to the second round, but I just think that the race between the Browns and the Giants, they're playing defense with this trade against the other.
I think if there's anyone that has a huge range that they could be drafted at, it's Shador, because this is a dude that's been talked about as the second overall pick, third overall pick for so long, but it really just seems like that's not going to be the case. So this is where you kind of, I feel like, have to look for a trade up starting, and maybe like the Saints take him or something like that, and we kind of get shocked a little bit because I don't necessarily. I think the Saints would be not so shocking, but a little bit in my opinion. But after that is where you start looking for the trade up, and there's 100% a possibility where Shador just starts slipping. And I mentioned earlier that it wouldn't be surprising either if Jackson Dart gets picked over, Shador, but I wouldn't be surprised about this either. There's a good chance he would fall into the second, but I would be shocked if he fell into the second just because of what Dylan mentioned about the 5th-year option, which for anyone who doesn't know, basically gives the team, a 5th year on their after their rookie year to keep them and keep them under contract. So I think that this is a good possibility, especially if he slipped this far.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd prefer to see him on the Browns, but I'm dude. I don't know, man. I think Jackson Dart is starting to take the second best QB in the draft.
Yeah. Do you personally agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I know we were like really high on Shador early on in college, and then they went to Oregon and got smacked.
Yeah.
And then we were like, I think they're just a distant memory at that point.
Yeah, and then one more thing on Shador, a lot of the people that I kind of respect and pay attention to their opinion, kind of said that Shador is super hard to evaluate because like I want to say it was like 50% of his passes were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So if you're throwing so many short passes, screens, and all that, it makes it hard to kind of evaluate everything. And if it's 50% of the passes, which it is, it makes it interesting to see how teams kind of evaluate him and really just see him as a prospect.
Yeah, and honestly, to build on that, if there's anyone that can survive being arrogant and be successful, it's Sanders' kid. But I'm getting Josh Rosen kind of vibes from this draft right now with Shador, man.
Yeah,
The Packers here at 32, Seamus.
yeah,
The Packers here at 32, Seamus. I have them getting Maxwell Harrison to complete the draft. I think they could have got Will Johnson, but they get the guy that balled out during the combine, who participated in the combine, and let's see if I can move this for you guys. I know you watched the whole video if you stuck around this far, but um, enjoy the draft today. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe. Watch
yep,
our other videos, man. We putting the work in.
yeah, yeah. Thank you if you watched this far. We're fired up right now for the draft day. Look out for us to be streaming probably tomorrow at
Yep.
around 6 for day 2 of the draft. And thank you if you watched this far, and we really appreciate it.